Welcome to the London Property Podcast, your go-to source for navigating the complex and ever-changing London real estate market. Our digital marketplace provides informative and educational content from industry leaders through podcasts and videos. We cover various aspects of the real estate experience, including buying and selling, finance, law, tax, construction, design, and more. Join us as we delve into the latest trends and developments in the market and gain valuable insights from our panel of experts.
Hello and welcome to London Property. I'm your host Farnaz Fazaipour, and today we're delighted to welcome back to the show Trevor Abrahmsohn. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And we are going to be speaking to Trevor about what are the non-doms saying. So within the context of property, I wanted to hand it over to you to tell us about your experience of how they're reacting and how this is affecting the market.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Wealth creators from abroad can stay in the country effectively, spend their money here, pay tax on any earnings they make in the UK, whilst their foreign earnings and inheritance tax are outside of the tax net. That worked very nicely. And along comes the Labour Party, and they appease their left wing by telling them that they're going to raise 6 or 8 or 9 billion pounds by taxing the non-doms after 4 years, ensnarling their worldwide income and bringing them into the IHT tax net.
For up to 10 years after they leave, incidentally.
What a stupid plan was this? This is so illustrative of how out of touch the Treasury is with the dynamics of the cosmopolitan London. They just don't understand, because there is nothing more mobile than a non-dom running from a asphyxiating tax regime in the UK. So what's happened is, supposedly, according to Hendy and Partners, more than 13,000 non-doms have chosen to flee. And this started as a trickle and it's now become an exodus, which is appalling. And of course, they won't raise a penny from it because, you know, a tax that is perfectly escapable is never paid. So the Treasury are not going to get the 6 or 9 million pounds that they were promised.
Billion, yeah.
Billion. And it's a moronic system. And it's another U-turn. According to rumours, the government are going to do a U-turn on the non-doms, easing the IHT restriction. But of course, they're so slow. They move at glacial pace. And, you know, trying to close the barn door after the horse has bolted is pretty stupid. I understand that today's rumour is that they're going to try and impose a wealth tax of 2% on these wealthy people. And of course, that will just ensure that more wealthy people leave the country, which is damn stupid. Anyway, I've been studying the effects of this. And actually, although technically the head of the family may be moving to the 90-day rule, i.e. they move themselves to a foreign destination. And let's face it, Italy, Portugal, Monte Carlo, Dubai are only too happy to have these wealthy people spending money in their country, and have created a fast lane for tax for non-doms, wealthy non-doms who are fleeing from the UK because they're only too pleased to have them. What's happened is that in the main, the wives have remained with the children in the country, whilst the children get a British education, which is unique. And the husbands are moving out.
Yeah.
Probably they're working on the basis that either they'll allow the kids to go through the schooling system and then sell their properties, or they're waiting for Nigel Farage to come in with a pact with the Tories and change all these arrangements in 4 years' time.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the Tories were the ones who announced it and did throw Labour under the bus with it. But my question to you is...
So, sorry, can I just say,
yeah,
they did that to shoot the Labour Party fox.
Fair enough.
That's why they did it.
Fair enough. So my question to you is, obviously, you know, you and I both come across non-doms who have had to make changes, and some of them really reluctantly and really don't want to go. But what are you hearing from these non-doms? How are they reacting to it? And what would they see as a solution given the new order?
Well, I don't blame them, because most of them are completely bemused and bewildered as to the crass and visceral stupidity of the British government. How could it possibly be in their interests? And if they're so, of course, the Labour Party are riddled with politics of envy. So actually kicking the rich is a very popular sport to them. And they would argue that everyone should pay their way. And why should these rich taxpayers avoid British tax? Well, the answer is, if you had given them a levy of, say, £250,000 each, you would have raised, the Treasury would have raised, the Exchequer would have raised something like £6 billion in revenue. So they're paying their tax. Admittedly, it's a flat tax. It's not based on any capital amount. But of course, that arrangement would be predicated on the fact that their international wealth would remain untaxed, as would assets outside the country. So that would be a way of everyone wins out of that. The government wins, the country wins, the non-doms who want to pay the penal tax of 250,000 stay, and the Mittalls and the Fredricksons of the world and the Lord Sugars of the world remain in the UK. Fabulous. Everyone wins out of that.
And it's a little bit too late for people of a certain generation, I guess, to do a U-turn because, you know, they've done their hard work, they've moved themselves away, and even with a U-turn, they're probably going to be, well, I'm actually quite enjoying living in the sunshine in Tuscany. What am I going to go back for?
I'll be honest with you. London is not just the greatest city on earth with any other city on its tail. And there being a cigarette paper between that and New York or Milan or Monte Carlo or Geneva or whatever it is, or Dubai. It is the greatest city on earth by a long chalk. There is no place like London, or almost like London. London has 45% green open spaces. It's liberal, it's safe, it's comfortable, it's eclectic, it's got cutting-edge culture, couture, cuisine. It's the first place in the world for financial services, for insurance, for banking. And what's more, all the centres of excellence are in one city.
It's very multi-generational, isn't it? London can work for everybody, as you say. So if you grandparents and your children are here and your grandchildren are going to university here, it'll all be happening in the same city. That's the bottom line. But the question really is, what have you come across non-doms who've said to you, if they just change this, I wouldn't leave, or why didn't they do it this way? I mean, you know, I've had conversations with people who, as you say, the husband has gone And the wife's like, I hope something changes before my child finishes school. I really don't want to leave.
Well, there's a very, if the polls, the present polls are to be believed, and if they remain optimistic in favour of reform, and reform does a deal with the Conservatives, there's a good chance that the Labour Party will lose the next election, despite their 174 majority at the moment, in which case Nigel Farage will not waste a second in bringing back the arrangements of non-doms. So people are thinking that maybe in 4 years' time, things will get back to where they were.
Well, one of the things, I actually went to the Treasury for a listening clinic in the summer, last summer, and, there was a lot of experts in the audience saying things, and every time they asked a question, the people from the Treasury said, we're just here to listen, and they were just making notes. And one of the things they said, which is actually not just tax-driven, well, actually, it is tax-driven, but in a different guise. But one of the things that they said is that London's becoming transient. So if you can be here for 4 years under the old regime, then you're likely to come here and sell your company, use the services that you need of the professionals to sell your company, and leave. So the same way that the landlords have been taxed out, so 45% of the landlords have left, and that's kind of being replaced by co-living, smaller units, that you can sort of check in and check out and just be in London for the period of time you need to be. So London's kind of becoming transient as a result of all of these things, rather than a permanent base for a lot of people. And obviously that then has an effect on how much money people are willing to invest here or spend here.
Well, I must say the net effect of the draconian stamp duty regime that was brought in by George Osborne in 2014 and was a damn stupid arrangement, really, because a lot of people don't move because they don't want to trigger the tax. What has happened is people that would have bought a trophy home, a super mansion, now rent the super mansion because they can get, if instead of paying 17 or plus solicitor's fees, let's say 20% in fixed costs, they could rent for 5 years, tax, effectively,
and not expose themselves to all the other inheritance
and not expose
tax.
themselves, keep their money abroad.
Yeah.
And that's why we've got fairly regular inquiries to rent super mansions up to £50,000 a week. We've never had that before.
Yeah, that's definitely a market that has really, really grown in the past 10 years. That's true. So now with this exodus that we're seeing, how is that translating itself in the market, in your opinion?
Well, there are many fewer cash buyers, that's for sure. And the fact that Russians are no longer buyers because either they've been sanctioned or they've gone elsewhere. So we are short of cash buyers. But I have to say there isn't an avalanche of properties for sale, which is odd.
Well, people holding on to see what happens because they can afford to.
Happens.
Yeah.
And therefore, you could say there are not many properties for sale, but then there are not many buyers to buy them. So the rarity of one meets the rarity of the other. So there are imbalance at the moment. There isn't a massive imbalance whereby you get a rush of properties coming on the market with very little demand.
Trevor, I think you and I have been in the market for enough decades to say that property for locals has been out of reach for some time, and perhaps affected by the fact that the non-doms are less price sensitive. It's a good place to be where, you have got a lot of wealth that is outside the tax system of the place that you live, and then maybe you don't mind so much paying £5,000, £6,000, £7,000, £8,000 a square foot for a property. Now, if they're out of the picture, and we have got developments that are in the pipeline.
Who buys those 5,000, 6,000?
Who buys those now?
Well, oddly enough, we have a rich seam of Chinese and Hong Kong bars, and they've got some serious money. We're doing about £20 million worth of transactions. One of them is looking at a £65 million property. So they've got some serious money, the Chinese and Hong Kong applicants. So it's not as though everyone is gone and there's no buyers. But it is true that the non-DOMs could leave a vacuum. But, there are a number of very wealthy Americans that have bought. I mean, Tom Ford apparently has just bought a property at 65 million. I know two very wealthy Americans from California, a gay couple who are spending a lot of money here. So it's not as though we're going to be left with a total vacuum. And don't forget, as I said, London has got this irresistible charm and amenities and facilities all in one place.
No, I don't disagree with that. But, I think that, a British buyer, I can't see a British buyer, coming back from the countryside to London and buying something that costs £7,000-8,000 a square foot, even if they're trillionaires.
I can tell you that a British buyer has just, not just, but a few years ago, bought a property for £5,000 a square foot and knocked it down. So...
but the gems will always have their own market. I don't disagree. I wonder whether some of these developments that are in the pipeline, although they report from planning that very little is in the pipeline, but things that are already finished and they're there and they were going to be marketed to this audience, I wonder whether there's an opportunity there for big funds to come and buy these developments as a whole and kind of have a super prime portfolio of rental investments. I mean, I'm just trying to think, where are we going to go with the more standard sort of lifestyle, top end of the market properties?
And who will be the buyers, tomorrow's buyers for those properties?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't write off the English market. You get a splattering of Scandinavian, of American, of Iranian, of East European buyers who, even despite the non-DOM regime, that still want a property that they may keep, and they can come and go under the 90-day rules. So I don't see this as being a total vacuum. I don't think it's going to happen that way. And as I said, as I believe Lord Sugar, who's gone off to Dubai, and I know Richard Desmond's gone to Dubai, after a year or two of living in Dubai, you could find that even despite the tax regime, former non-DOMs, particularly the English ones, could find their way circling back to Blighty to enjoy the charms of London. So I think almost despite the idiotic attempts of the government to cause an exodus of these people, I'm not sure if it's the last word.
Things will get better. I hope so. I mean, the first thing they could do is, instead of making it 4 years, make it 5 years, so at least your children can finish senior school in the same country as their parents, which at the moment, you can't.
Yes, but we've yet to see what amendments Rachel Reeves has got in mind to try and make it slightly more palatable.
Well, you have to have quite an advanced, I think, tax system. When you look at the US, who are and have always been taxed on their worldwide income, they also have a huge amount of reliefs to rely on. So they can, their tax planning can be a lot more palatable because they've got all these treaties and they've got all this sophistication in how to structure yourself. So I think, that's probably where they need to be looking.
Well, hence why Florida is the fastest growing state in America, because they have no income tax. No, they've got no income tax. And there's a £20 million tax-free lifetime amount that they can give away in Florida and in Texas. So there are advantages to Americans. But as I said, I don't think it's the last word. I think that, because London is so irreplaceable, it may be au revoir, but not adieu, meaning I'll see you later before time.
Thank you. One last question before we say thank you and goodbye. So if you were to look at the market over the last 18 months, would you say there's any light coming towards the end of the tunnel?
Well, actually, even more than non-DOMs, stamp duty has attenuated any growth in the higher end of the Uber end of the residential market. We're selling, just sold a property. It's a super mansion of 15,000 square foot in Bishop's Avenue. It was bought 30 years ago for 11.2 million. We've just sold it for 8.75 million, which is a bit of a worry for some. So what stamp duty has done is it's attenuated the growth, capital growth over time. So I don't think there's going to be any capital growth, but I think there'll be relative stability. That's my impression. I think that if you buy a property and you hold it for a period of time, you probably could, if you buy it sensibly, and you can buy sensibly today, I think you'll probably get, at very least, your money back in a few years' time. But of course, in the meantime, you've enjoyed all the jewels and the fruits of this wonderful city of ours that is irreplaceable and is unique in the world.
Thank you very much. I mean, as I say, I'm going to thank you and say goodbye. But one thing that we have noticed doing our news bulletins every week is that, property is the one topic that is always targeted by politicians, and they make decisions without actually taking too much advice from people within the industry. So if you are a non-dom and you're listening to this and you'd like to make some confidential comments to us, we would love to put a package together that maybe can go to the right ears when they're making their decisions, and hopefully make some wise decisions that works for everybody.
Well, I can tell you that the U-turns that the government have made is because they've been got at by feedback.
Yes.
And feedback's a good thing. And I think the city has put a lot of pressure on the Treasury to look at non-dom arrangements again. You could argue that they had so much time to consider this. Why wouldn't they have thought it through and modelled their plans more effectively? But none so blind as those that don't want to see. But nevertheless, lobbying is always a good thing.
So, you heard it from the man. Do please share your comments, and thank you very much for joining us. And we look forward to having you back again soon.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to our latest episode of the London Property Podcast. Head over to our website where you can browse our exclusive network of top experts driving the market. As a member, you'll have direct access to our experts and their networks. Our award-winning content will help you choose the right professionals for your needs and make informed decisions about your investments. Personal recommendations are a powerful tool in connecting with trusted professionals. Let us introduce you to the right people to help you achieve your real estate goals. Contact us now to learn more about becoming a member and gaining access to these valuable resources, or joining our directory of experts.